All right, so this morning we are going to walk through DocuSign from an opportunity in Command, setting up our documents, sending them out for signature, and then uploading them into Command for compliance review. I am going to mute both of you. So if you have any questions, just unmute yourself, or you can ask in the chat box and I'll answer that. I want to make sure, like I said, that you guys feel comfortable using DocuSign after this morning's training. So I'm in Command, and every time you're about to create a room in DocuSign or you need to send documents for signature, I always recommend that you start in Command, because one of the benefits of using DocuSign as a KW agent is that we have this seamless integration with the DocuSign system, so Command and DocuSign can work together. So I'm going to go to my opportunities. So I'm going to click on the icon of the two hands shaking. And then I personally just like to click on the all opportunities. It's just easier for me to see my opportunities in a list. And here's the opportunity that I created this morning. So I'm going to click on this. Now, just for time's sake, I already went through and created this. If you have any questions on how to create an opportunity, let me know and we can chat about that afterwards. So I filled in all the information that I know for my opportunity. This morning, I'm going to walk through a listing. The reason I'm going to be using a listing as an example is because the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and lead-based paint disclosure, I want to walk through how to use those documents with our clients, because it's a little bit different than what people are used to in .loop. So now that I have all my information here, I'm going to click on the Documents tab. And then I'm going to come, you see here, I'm in the listed folder. And then up here in the top right-hand corner, there's a big blue button that says Start a Transaction. This is very important that you click Start a Transaction in Command, because by clicking Start a Transaction, it is what links DocuSign to this opportunity. So that way, all the documents that are going to be in our DocuSign room can then easily be uploaded into Command. If you start a room directly in DocuSign, you will never be able to retroactively add that or connect that room to the opportunity. So click on Start a Transaction. And now it's going to open up a new window. Now, one thing I want to point out here, if this doesn't open up for you, come double check your URL bar. There may be a red box there, and there may be a pop-up blocker that is preventing DocuSign from loading. So I'm going to log in using the account that I created through KW. Click Log In. And now it's going to drop me off into the Documents tab of my new room. And now I know that I'm in the correct room because it has the same name, 1234 Main Street Stark Potts listing. That's the same name as my opportunity in Command. So I know that the two are linked. For today, I'm going to walk you through if this is your very first time in DocuSign, because before you actually start doing anything, you need to confirm your Nrds number, and that is going to give you access to the GAR forms. If you don't confirm your Nrds number, the system won't know that you're a member of an association and you won't have access to the GAR forms. There are two ways that you can confirm your NRDS ID. The first is right here within the Documents tab. You can click on the plus sign up here in the top right-hand corner, select DocuSign Forms, and you'll get this pop-up with two logos. I'm going to select the Realtor logo because I want the system to know I'm a member of NAR. Now it's going to ask for my 9-digit Nrds ID. Now, I don't know my 9-digit number, and I imagine you probably don't either, but you can click on this link right here that says Find Your NRDS ID, and click on that. And now we'll have the ability to search by using our last name, email address, and or license number. So I'm going to use my last name and my license number. Click Submit. And then here is my 9-digit NRDS ID. So I'm just going to highlight this, copy it, and I'm going to close this tab because I don't need it. I'll close that one too. I'll come right back into this pop-up, click Paste there. I'm going to type in my last name. Make sure that your last name here matches the same last name you used for your Georgia Association of Realtors membership. If it's different, then it won't verify that this is your NRDS ID and you won't have access to the GAR forms. Now we need to select Georgia Association of Realtors from the list of associations. So I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and then Georgia Association of Realtors is kind of up here towards the top. Select that, and then click validate. It's going to let me know that I've validated my 2 association memberships, my National Association and my Georgia Association. And then when you see this pop-up window here that says add DocuSign forms, that lets you know that you have confirmed your NRDS ID. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that I've confirmed my NRDS numerous times before. If this is your very first time, you also have a secondary pop-up window right here that asks you to accept and agree to the terms and conditions of the Georgia Association of Realtors use of the GAR forms. Click accept or agree, and then you'll see this window and you'll be good to go. I'm going to click cancel here because I don't want to add any forms. I want to show you the second way that you can confirm your Nrds number. Up in the top right-hand corner where you see your image or your initials, click on that, and then select preferences. And then over here on the left-hand side, we'll click on integrations, and I'll scroll down just a little bit, and then we have our Nrds ID information. And this is going to be the same process that we just went through. Right here where I see a clear button, if you didn't have your Nrds number validated, you would have that link that says find your NRDS ID. You could click on that, again, search for your ID number using your last name, email address, and license number. And again, you'd fill that number in here, your last name, and select Georgia Association of Realtors and click validate and agree to the terms and conditions, and then you are good. You must have your Nrds ID validated and confirmed to have access to the GAR forms. You won't be able to send anything out until you have confirmed this information. Any questions on confirming your Nrds ID? All right. So I'm going to click back into my room where I just was. So I'm going to click on dashboard. I'm going to click right here into this room, and I'm going to click on the documents tab because now I kind of want to pick up right where we left off. So anytime that you create you click start a transaction in Command, it's going to create a room in DocuSign. And when you create that room, it's going to drop you off right here in the Documents tab of DocuSign. And your first instinct is going to be like, oh, let me go ahead and start adding my buyer brokerage agreement or my listing agreement or my purchase and sale document. No. Before you start adding any documents to a room, we are going to click on the Details tab. And the Details tab is where we're going to input all of the information about the property and our clients that will be used to auto-populate all of the GAR forms that we're going to fill out. So this will save you a lot of time from then having to fill in this information on subsequent documents in the future. It'll automatically pre-populate. Now, I do want to point out that DocuSign does not connect to FMLS and does not pull in information directly from FMLS like .loop does. So you do have to manually put it in, but if you do it here in the Details tab, then you don't have to worry about doing it every single time on every form. The way that this details page is set up is the left-hand side, like, 3/4 of the page is really going to be all about the property that we are either about to list or go under contract on. And then the right-hand column over here is going to be about the people involved in the transaction. So either the seller, the listing agent, buyer's names, and buyer's agent. So to update this information, I'm going to click Edit in the top right-hand corner. And with everything, I recommend we'll just start at the top and we'll work our way down and filling in the information that we know. So we'll get started on the left 3/4 of the page and fill in all the information about the property first before going over to the client side. Here, the top icon, the top option is the name of the room. You can update that if you want to. You don't need to necessarily. Whatever helps you keep track of it. I'm just going to fill in as much information that I know. So local currency, US dollars, MLS ID. I would just copy this out of FMLS. Origin of lead doesn't matter. Company room status doesn't really matter. I'm going to put in my property address. So I'll type in 1234 Main Street, Northeast, Atlanta, County, Fulton, State, Georgia, 30342. Property type, I'm going to do single or residential detached. Year built, I'm going to select 2007. Special circumstances, there are no special circumstances. So we're good to go there. Listing date, so I will have today 2/5 as our listing date. Listing expiration, let's just select March 5. Original listing amount, I think I did 375. And you also type in 375 a couple times. So we're good to go there. Offer details. Now we're just getting ready to list this property, so I don't have any offer details, so I'll leave this blank. No highest bid confirmation, closing information, additional information. I don't have any of that yet, so I can just leave it blank. I can always come back later on throughout the transaction and fill in any information as I receive it. Now we're going to go to the right-hand column, and this is where we're going to fill in information about our clients and us as the listing agent. So at the top here, we have seller 1, and you'll notice that this information is already auto-populated. When you input your contacts into command, and then you create your opportunity, and then you create your room, DocuSign pulls in that contact information directly out of command. I will say this, 9 times out of 10, it works successfully. However, if you add a contact and then immediately create an opportunity and then immediately create a room, it doesn't have the system long enough or enough time to sync, so it won't be able to pull over that contact information, which is fine. Just manually input the information here. So we have our client's name. At the very minimum, in the details tab, you need to have your client's name and your client's email address. You have to have the email address here in order to be able to send your documents to your clients for signature. If you don't have their email address, you won't be able to send it to them. So I have name, phone number, email address. I don't need to put in their actual mailing address because it doesn't matter. We have seller 2, Pepper Potts, and then Pepper's email, which is just my personal one. And then we'll scroll down. Here we have listing agent. So I'm the listing agent. So I have my name, my phone number, my email address, company. You'll see it's going to default to Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta. I'm just going to delete Realty because the space allocated on the GAR forms for company name is kind of small. So if you have Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta, it just bleeds over on the text. So I'll just leave that as First Atlanta. We have our address, city, fill this in, Atlanta, country, United States, state, Georgia, 30342. If you continue to scroll down, we have listing agent 2. So if I were working with another co-listing agent, I could put his or her information in here, but I'm not. Then I'm going to scroll down, and now we have buyer 1. So if you're working with buyers, you would leave the listing information blank, and then you would fill in the buyer's name, buyer 1, buyer 2, and buyer's agent. Now, you may think, oh, okay, so I'm like, for today's example, I'm the listing agent, but I could go ahead and fill in all of this information for buyer 1, buyer 2, and the buyer's agent. You can, and that will populate the GAR forms, but just be mindful, I recommend do not send any documents to co-op agents for signature through DocuSign. So I'm going to tell you that now, and I'll remind you again in a little bit, but I want to point it out here because oftentimes you'll feel compelled to fill in as much information as possible, and it may end up causing a few hiccups later on when you get through later on in the process. But fill in, if you're the buyer's agent, fill in your information here and scroll down, buyer 2. Now I want to point out that the buyer information is kind of pretty far down on this page, so you do have to scroll for a minute to get to where you can input the buyer information. So I've input all of the information. Let me scroll up to the top real fast. I filled in all the information about the property over on the left-hand side. I filled in my seller's information and my information on the right-hand side with their name and email address. Now I'm going to click Save. The room has been updated. So now I'm good to go. Now I'm going to go to the Documents tab because now that we filled in all the information about the property, now we can start updating our GAR forms. So I'm going to click Documents. Now we start adding documents to the room. So there's 2 places you can do that. You could click Upload or Add Documents to your room here, or up in the top right-hand corner, you can click Add, select DocuSign Forms, and then we'll leave this as DocuSign Forms Library, and then I'll select the Georgia Association of Realtors Library. And this is going to load all 180 GAR forms, which is a lot. So I would recommend that you start to memorize the names and the form numbers for the specific forms that you're going to use regularly, just because there are a lot of similarly named forms, and I don't want you to accidentally send the incorrect form, because I have, thankfully I didn't send it, but I've filled in a handful of commercial documents when I meant to do residential. So I'm going to start by searching for the forms here. So I'm going to type in exclusive seller, and then we have our listing agreement. So we have F101. So we have that there. Now I want to do the seller's property disclosure. And here we go. So F301. I'm also going to do the community association disclosure. So right here, F322. And then I mentioned before the lead-based paint. Well, I selected that this house was built in like 2007, so we don't need to use the lead-based paint for this morning's example, but the lead-based paint does have the same functionality as the property disclosure and community association disclosure. So you'll see how that would work with clients in just a minute. So I have my 3 forms right here selected. That lets me know that I have 3 total selected. And then I'm also going to pull in the purchase and sale agreement, F201. And I know traditionally a listing agent wouldn't be the one that fills in a purchase and sale agreement, but because it is going to be such an important document that you'll use for your real estate career, I want to just kind of familiarize you with the form. So I'm going to add that. So now I have 4 forms selected, and I've added 4 GAR forms. You'll notice that I have not added the affiliated marketing or wire fraud prevention disclosures. And that's because those forms are not added here in the Documents tab. They're added later on when we're in the envelope. And I'll walk you through that process. But I just wanted to point that out so you didn't think I was missing anything, or when you're going through your process of adding documents, you're not looking for them. So I'm going to click Add. The page will reload, and you'll see all 4 of those documents have been added into my Room Docs folder. The Room Docs folder is going to be the default folder in this room. So anytime you add a document, you either upload it or you use from the GAR library, or a document has been signed and finished for signature, it'll all default into the Room Docs folder. Now you can organize your DocuSign rooms any which way that you want. In .loop, we had to have our folders and documents in a specific order for compliance review. Lynn and Alita are never going to look at your DocuSign rooms. So you can have it organized as cleanly or messily as you prefer. So if you would like to organize it in different folders, which I do, you can add folders by going up here to the Actions button in the top right-hand corner, click Add Folder, and I'm going to make a folder specifically for my listing agreement. Click Create. The page will reload, and now I have my listing agreement folder. There are 2 ways that you can move documents from one folder to the next. The first way is if you roll your mouse over an icon, the document icon, you'll see this radio button appears in the top left-hand corner. You can select that radio button, and anytime you select a document, this toolbar will appear up here at the top of the screen. So I'm going to select these 2 documents here, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on the move icon. If you roll your mouse over any of the icons in the toolbar, it'll tell you what it is. So I'll click Move, select Destination, Folder in Current Room, and then I'll select Listing Agreement Folder and then click Move. The page will reload, and now those 2 documents are in my Listing Agreement folder. The second way that you can move documents is by simply dragging and dropping. So I'm going to move my seller's property disclosure. I'm going to click on it, hold my mouse down, and then drag it into the Listing Agreement folder. There we go. And that's how simple it is to move those documents. So at first, remember, everything will go into that Room Docs folder, and then you could easily move it into whichever folder you want. So now that we have added our GAR forms, we've organized them into specific folders, we can start adding or updating those documents. Any questions on any of the information that we've gone through so far this morning? All right, I'm going through things pretty quickly here, so I just want to make sure that I don't breeze through anything. So please interrupt me if anything comes up. So we'll get started by filling in our exclusive seller listing agreement. So I'm going to just to open it up. I'm going to click on it and it opens up. We'll give it a second to load. And now you'll notice some of this information has already been pre-populated. This is the information that has been filled in from the Details tab. So that's why I was saying it's a benefit if you fill in that information on the Details tab, because it'll auto-populate that into your forms, and it's just less work that you have to do. We're going to start at the top of our document and work our way down. This is going to be fairly similar to .loop, and you just fill in the boxes with the information that you know. So we have our address, city, county, zip code, tax parcel ID. I would just paste this in from the tax records. Our legal description, I'm going to select one. I'm just going to click on that radio button, attach as an exhibit here too. I'll scroll down. We have our list price at $375,000. And then we have the term of this agreement shall begin on the date of, we'll just do 2/5/2021. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that when you're inputting dates in DocuSign forms, I always recommend that you put them in numerical order or numerical form, because in the past, and I believe this has been resolved, but just better to be safe than sorry, if you were to have spelled out February, it would then give the DocuSign system an error, and it would cause all of the information that you just put into your listing agreement or whichever form you're using would be automatically erased. So if you keep your dates in numerical format, you'll be good to go and you shouldn't have to worry about that. Another thing I want to point out with today's training is that I'm going to walk you through how to use the DocuSign forms and how to fill in the information, but all of training regarding what information goes in those forms, please lean on Lynn and Alita and our compliance partners to how to fill this in so you are GREC compliant. So then we'll go down to section 3, marketing. So I'll just type in FMLS, Georgia MLS, and KWLS. Commission, I negotiated 6% commission, and I agree to share half of that with the buyer's agent. Scroll down, commission agreement to cooperating broker. There's no circumstances, protected period. I negotiated 90 days. Agency brokerage, the types that are not offered. So we at First Landed do not have dual agency or sub agency, and the seller does consent the broker, does not consent to the broker acting in dual agency capacity. So make sure you select that. Any special circumstances? No, we don't need to check any of those. Negotiations, seller does authorize the broker to assist in negotiating terms. And now let's continue to scroll down, double check, make sure there aren't any fields that we're missing. Keep scrolling. All right, so now we have our brochures. So all of the brochures are uploaded into DocuSign. So select all the brochures that you are going to send to your client. Lead-based paint, mold, radon, protect yourself when selling a home. All right, and then exhibits, we have our legal description. I'll make that exhibit A. And we'll scroll down. We have special stipulations. Now, I don't know why Georgia Association of Realtors, whenever they made this form, why they made this field so small, but it is tiny. So if you have a lot of stipulations, what you may want to do is just go ahead and click on additional stipulations are attached, and you can add that form to the room. And me personally, I would say, please see additional stipulation page attached. I would just put that in there just so that way it was very clear that my clients and me we all know that there's an additional page of stipulations. I'm going to scroll down. We'll see here the system has added my client's name and email addresses, so we're good to go there. I do want to point out here that anytime that you come across a field that has been pre-populated with information from the Details tab, if you make any edits or delete any of that information on a GAR form, it will make that same edit or deletion from the Details tab and then remove it from all other documents. So if you were to delete your client's email here, it would delete it from the Details tab. And then when we go to send these documents for signature, there wouldn't be an email address to send it to. So don't change or be very mindful when changing any of the pre-populated fields. So I'll continue to scroll down, and now we get to the section about the listing broker. So I'm just going to fill in the remainder of the information. So really quickly, there have been a lot of conversations with DocuSign about having this information pre-populated because it's going to be the same on every single document for every single agent, or it'll be the same for every individual agent. My license number. I'm a member of the Atlanta board. So once you are finished filling in your information, we have two options. We can click Save and Close up here in the top right-hand corner, or we can click Save and Close down here at the bottom of the document. Either or, let's click Save and Close. It's going to make all those changes. Perfect. So now we're done with the listing agreement. Now we can go on to the seller's property disclosure statement. So to open that, I'm just going to click on it. And we'll go through the very same process we just did with the listing agreement. You can see here it's filled in the property address information, so we're good to go there. I don't need to fill in the exhibit letter because I don't know which exhibit this will be to a purchase and sale agreement. I don't have an offer date, so I'm going to scroll down. And now you'll notice here I have all these fields, but there's no radio buttons, there's no text fields, there's nothing for me to fill in. That is correct. As the listing agent, we do not have permission to fill in any of the disclosures on behalf of our clients. So when you look at the document in the Documents tab in DocuSign, you don't have any fields here to fill in. There's nothing for you to change. You can't do anything. It looks like it's broken, but in fact, it is set up correctly. All of these fields are mapped to seller one. So when seller one goes to sign this document, he or she will have the ability to fill in all of this information. I just want to point that out so you don't get, it's not 10 o'clock at night and you're freaking out because this form isn't working and you need to get your listing live, by 9 a.m. the next morning so you can, have an open house on Saturday. Everything is good to go here. So I'm going to scroll down just to make sure that everything is good, that I'm not missing anything. We have our seller's names. Everything's correct, so I'm going to click Save and Close. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the community association disclosure. I'm going to open that. And this is going to be the same deal. It's going to pre-populate the information for the address. And then I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to see all these blank checkboxes and text fields that, again, I don't have the ability to fill in as a listing agent because all of these fields are mapped to seller one. So the form looks blank or broken. It's not. We're good to go. But I am going to double check it just to make sure that there aren't any fields on here that I do need to fill in as the listing agent. All right. Everything looks good to go there. So I'm going to click Save and Close. All right. So now we have gone through the listing agreement forms. What I want to do now is I want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement. It's going to be similar functionality, but I just kind of want to walk through some of the fields just so that way you can be more familiar with the purchase and sale agreement when you go to send out an offer. And I do want to point out that this is what we're doing here for the residential documents. It's going to be the same process and same setup for any of the commercial forms as well. So I'm going to click purchase and sale agreement to open that up. All right. Just like I said before, we start at the top and we'll work our way down. So I know it's going to be, this is unusual that a listing agent would be filling this in, but we will. So just for today's example, so we're going to put in our offer date. I'm going to type in 2/5/2021. DocuSign does not have the calendar field like .loop does, so just manually type it in. Double check on my property address. I'm going to fill in the tax parcel ID that I got from the tax records. I have my legal description, attached an exhibit here too. Our purchase price, so we're going to make an offer of $365. And you'll notice I didn't put any commas in that number. For whatever reason, in DocuSign, it does not like commas and numbers. So you can put it in there, but when you hit save and close, it's going to remove it. I don't know why. So I just pay attention to, excuse me, pay attention to the total number of zeros that you put in your purchase price. So you're not, offering $3.65 million by accident, because I definitely have done that before too. Closing costs, we're going to ask for $5,000. Closing date, we'll make this 3/5/2021. We'll take possession at closing. Holder of earnest money, we'll just do KWFA. Earnest money will be by check. And we'll do, let's do $4,000 within 3 days of binding. So again, this is going to be very similar to what you may have done it in .loop. Our total due diligence period, we'll do 10 days. Lead-based paint was not attached because it was built in 2007. And now we'll see here we have, it auto-populates our brokerage as Keller Williams First Atlanta, and we'll do the buyer brokerage today. We'll do them as Harry Norman, and they are representing their buyer as client. I'm representing my seller as client. Material relationship notice, no, I don't know any. And we'll leave this offer will be valid through 12 p.m. on 2/6/2021. Perfect. Now you'll see here, there are fields for buyers and sellers initials. There's no actual initials here yet. And we'll see that once we get to the envelope and we prepare these documents to send for signature. So I'm going to scroll down. Keep scrolling through all of this beautiful explanation of everything. All right, so now we get to our exhibits. Now, there have been some weird issues and quirks with the exhibits here being linked incorrectly to other exhibits. So I will say this, you're probably better off for the time being just putting a checkbox by the exhibits that you're including. So we have our seller's property disclosure, and then we have our legal description right here, and then not putting in a letter here for that exhibit. And we can add a letter in the envelope, and that just minimizes some of the weird connectivity issues from DocuSign mapping those fields incorrectly. So have those. And now we have, again, a very small box for special stipulations. I don't know why Guard designed it this way. So you can just start typing in your stipulations. Now, this is a very limited box. So if you need to, click the additional stipulations. Additional special stipulations are attached. Or I will show you in the envelope how we can add a text field here with smaller font so you can actually fit more stipulations in this box. I warn you though, because I don't think having 7-point font is going to do you any favors with the co-op agent or a closing attorney when you have really teeny tiny special stipulations. So you can have your additional stipulations attached here. So I'm going to scroll down. We'll double check. Here's my client's information. So we have name and email address for both seller 1 and seller 2. Now I want to point out a personal preference of mine is that I don't like sharing my client's contact information with any co-op agent. I'm sure 9 times out of 10 that co-op agent is going to be very respectful of the relationship that I have with my clients. However, there may be that one rogue agent that doesn't care and wants to try to cut me out to save money or get both sides of the deal or whatever it is. Well, I want to prevent that co-op agent from being able to reach out to my client. So my first instinct would be to delete my client's email addresses here out of the purchase and sale agreement or any agreement that I'll be sending to a co-op agent. However, like I mentioned earlier, anytime you change or delete information from a pre-populated field that has been updated on the details tab, if you delete it here, it will delete it out of the details tab and then delete it out of the room altogether. So if I were to delete my client's email, I wouldn't have an email address to send this document to for signature. So I'm going to leave their email addresses here on the document, and I will show you in the envelope how we can hide them to protect my client's privacy. I just want to point that out so there isn't any confusion, because that would cause a major hiccup when you go to send for signature. So I'm going to scroll down, double check all the information here. For my side, I'm going to fill it in. Now you may want to go ahead and fill in the co-op agent's information here. Especially in this market where every house is getting multiple offers, anything that you can do to help your client's offer stand out is going to be beneficial. And sometimes just as simple as filling in that co-op agent's information just makes it a little bit easier. It's one less thing for that agent to have to do. So you could fill in his or her information. But again, I do want to point out, don't send the document to that co-op agent for signature in DocuSign. So we've reached the end of the purchase and sale agreement. So I'm going to click Save and Close. All right. So we have finished going through and updating our documents and preparing those. Our next step is going to be to send them for signature. Any questions on adding documents, updating documents, or anything that we've gone through so far that I can clarify or show you again?
So do we add the exhibits, like the ones we didn't pick letters for? Is that adding an envelope?
That is a great question. So if I were truly writing an offer and I wanted to include those exhibits, I would add them here. So theoretically, so if I were working as a buyer's agent, I would get that from the co-op agent or from the listing, and I could upload them to my room here. So I'd click add, and I could select computer, and I could upload those documents. If I wanted to have them filled out for my sellers, I would add them the same DocuSign forms, going through that process that I did earlier. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now that we have all of our documents, we need to send them for signature. And the way that you send them for signature in DocuSign is through an envelope. And the way that Michael New explained envelopes to me, I thought was really smart, so I like to share it, is that think of an envelope in DocuSign like a manila envelope that you would have on your desk. And let's say you printed out hard copies of all of these documents and you filled them in, you wrote everything by hand and you organized them, and then you place them in that manila envelope and you place it on the edge of your desk until you saw your client. Then when you see your client, you hand them the manila envelope and say, please review and sign these documents. Envelopes in DocuSign work the same way, as just a place to organize and send documents for review and signature. There are two different ways that you can make envelopes in DocuSign. The first way is when you're in the Documents tab, you can roll your mouse over the document, click on the radio button to select all the documents that you'd want to include in an envelope. And like I said, whenever you select a document, the toolbar will appear. And if you roll your mouse over, you get to the icon that says Create Envelope. That will then create an envelope with just the documents that you have selected. I want to point that out because once you start going further through a transaction and you have a lot of documents in your room, it may be easier to just go ahead and select the few documents that you want to include in that envelope versus how I'm going to show you in just a moment. So that's option number one. Option number two is by clicking on the Envelopes tab, and then we will create a new envelope. So I'll select New in the top right-hand corner. And like everything in DocuSign, we'll just start at the top and work our way down. So envelope name, so I'm going to name this 1234 Main Street, and I'm going to name this Exclusive Seller Listing Agreement and purchase and sale. I would recommend that you give your envelopes a name that you can keep track of, because when you're going throughout a transaction, you're going to send 10, 20, 30, 40, potentially 50 envelopes for review and signature. And that's going to be a lot of them to keep track of. Granted, once the documents are signed, you're pretty much good to go. But if there's ever a question of when someone received a document or reviewed it or signed it, you can always come back into that specific envelope. So make sure you can keep track of it. This envelope name is going to be for internal purposes only. It's not something your clients are going to see. But again, I would recommend that you name your envelope something that would be client friendly. So now that we've named our envelope, now we can add documents to our envelope. So to add documents, I'm going to click on the Room Docs folder. This is going to have a pop-up, and it's going to show me every single document that I have in the room. Right now, I only have 4 documents, so it's super simple. But as I was saying earlier, if you have 20 documents in a room, it may be kind of tricky for you to go through this list and pick out the 4 of the 20 that you need to send for signature. But right now, it's super easy because I'm just going to select all of them and click Add Selected. So we'll let those load. All right, now we need to add our affiliated marketing and wire fraud disclosures. I mentioned to you earlier, those are added in the envelope. So we're here in the envelope. Just as I clicked Room Docs before, I'm going to click the button below that says Use a Template. And templates are documents that the MCA office has shared with us as agents. And the reason that these disclosures are templates is because there aren't any actual fields of information that you or your clients need to fill in. It really is just a document that they need to review and sign. So just keeping it as a template makes it much easier. So I'm going to click Use a Template. Then I'm going to select Shared with Me on the left-hand side. And now it's going to pull up every single document that the MCA office has shared with us. So we'll just give it a second to load. And now we'll see here, I'm going to scroll down. We have all of these documents. And now I have my affiliated marketing and wire fraud disclosures right here. But you'll notice it says buyer-affiliated and buyer-wire fraud. And if I scroll down, I have a seller version of the affiliated marketing and seller version of wire fraud. They are the exact same document. However, you do want to select the version of these disclosures based on which side of the transaction you are working. The reason is because the signatures are mapped to specific roles. So if I select the buyer version and I only have seller roles, there won't be any fields for my clients to sign. It'll just be empty. So I'm going to select the seller version for today since I am working on a listing example, and then click Add Selected. There we go. Now it has added my 2 disclosures. One thing you'll notice is that these documents are in alphabetical order of when they were added to the envelope, but I want my clients to review and sign these documents in a very specific order. I want them to look at the listing agreement, then seller's property disclosure, then community association disclosure, then the other disclosures, and then the purchase and sale. If you want to reorder the documents, you have to do it now at this stage of the envelope. If you don't reorder them now, you won't be able to do it in the next stage in the envelope editor. So the way that you reorder is roll your mouse over the document icon, hold your mouse down, and drag it into the desired position. So there we have our listing agreement. Then I'm going to drag the seller's property disclosure over. So that's second place. Then we have community association disclosure. Then I'm going to have my affiliated marketing and wire fraud. So I'm going to move my purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to put that into that last position. So my clients will review all of the listing agreements and exhibits that are attached for that. And then they'll review the purchase and sale agreement. This may be very similar to a process if, depending on how you run your business, but if you send your buyer brokerage agreement right before sending the purchase and sale, which I know a lot of agents do, this would be the order that you'd want to put it in. So I'm going to scroll down. Now that we have all of our documents, we have our documents in the right order. If you needed to add any documents from your computer, so let's say you downloaded an exhibit from the listing, or the co-op agent sent over another document for you to use, you can add that here as well. You could click more, and then you could click upload, and then you would have the ability to upload a document from your computer. Any questions on adding documents or reordering them? All right. So our next step is going to be to add recipients to the envelope. So this is going to be, who are we sending these documents to review and sign them? So to click on add recipients, I'm going to click on this drop-down menu. We have three options. When you are sending documents for review and signature, you always want to select pre-tagged roles. If pre-tagged roles is there, select it. The reason is all of the documents have signature and initial fields mapped to roles. So if you do not select pre-tagged roles, the system will not know that seller one needs to fill in all of the information on the disclosures. And all of the signature fields will not be mapped to that person. So you'll have to manually add all of those fields. So always select pre-tagged roles. So I'm going to click on that. And this pop-up window is going to show up with all of the different roles on all of the forms that we have. And I'm going to select the roles for my clients and myself. So I come here to seller one, and I'm going to select Tony from the drop-down menu here. Seller two, I'm going to select Pepper. And then listing agent, I'm going to select myself. Now your name may be in here more than once, and that's fine. Just select either one, it'll be okay. Now you'll notice down here we have another seller one and seller two. Just don't select those because that's a separate role and it will get kind of confusing when you send them to your client. So I'm just going to leave this as seller one, seller two, and listing agent, and then click add selected. Oh, as I said earlier, I said don't send any documents to co-op agents. This would be the part where you would probably feel compelled to add that co-op agent right here, but we're not going to do that because it's not a great user experience. So I'm going to click add selected. So now I have my three recipients. We'll give the system a second to load each one of those contacts. All right. Now you'll notice there's a fair amount of information with each one of these contacts. So let's walk through it. On the left-hand side of each one of the contact boxes, we have a square with a number 1 in it. That is the signing order. So right now the system will default to everyone will sign at the same time. So everyone is number 1, but you may want to put your documents in a specific signing order to have seller 1 review and sign first, then seller 2, and then yourself. I know some agents that want to be the first ones to sign it, and then it can go to their clients. However you like to do it is fine. If you want to reorder the signing order, just click your mouse into the box and then update the number. Oh, so I'm going to make Pepper is signer number 2, and then I want to make myself a signer number 3. So just update the number, and the system will automatically reorder based on that new designation. Here we have our clients' names and email addresses. This is pulled directly from the details tab, so we don't need to change it. Everything looks correct. To the right here, we have 2 drop-down menus. The first one on the left, it says needs to sign. And if you drop down, click on the drop-down, it's going to show all the permissions that your clients have. More often than not, needs to sign is going to be the permission that they have because they actually do need to sign the document. However, there may be a time where they just need to view a document. They don't need to actually sign it, but they just want to be in the loop. This may be, let's say, if you have a parent that's involved in a transaction or a spouse that isn't on the loan or isn't going to be on title, but still wants to see everything, you can add them and it just needs to view. The other option is receive a copy. So this could be really beneficial if you have a close working relationship with your lender or your closing attorney, that as soon as the document is signed, the system can automatically send a copy of that to that closing attorney or lender so that they can just go ahead and add it to the file. And the last is specify recipient, which you probably will not need to use. The second drop-down menu where it says more gives us 2 options. We have add access authentication and add private message. If you're working with a client that is very uncomfortable with e-signatures, and is afraid that their email is going to get hacked or their computer is going to get hacked, and then some random person is going to start signing purchase and sale agreements, and they're going to be under contract for a house they had no clue about, you can add an Access Authentication code that's going to add an additional layer of security. So just click Add Access Authentication, and then you can type in a quick little code. Now, I would tell my client, hey, Tony, when you receive your email from DocuSign and you click Start or Review Documents, you're going to have to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for you to have access to those forms. Make sure you type that code in before you can start signing. So this is going to be a way to prevent anyone from hacking and start signing things unknowingly for that client. I don't want to use that today, so I'm going to click Close. And then our other option, I want to discard, excuse me. Then I'm going to click More, and I'm going to add a private message. So this is going to be a private message specifically to Tony. This is going to be a great place that if you have one client or someone that has questions or wants some additional information, that you can include it without having to send it to everybody. So for me, I'm going to write a note. Tony says, hi, Tony, please be sure to review and fill in the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure. Thank you, Nick. Now I'm going to send this just to Tony because as seller one, Tony's going to be the only person that is allowed to fill in those disclosures. Pepper will only be able to review them and sign. So have everything set up for my recipients. I've added all 3 recipients. I put them in the correct signing order. I make sure that all of their permissions are correct, and I've added that private note for Tony. So now my next step is to scroll down, and now I'm going to add a message to the recipients. The email subject is going to default to please DocuSign, which I recommend that you leave it just so that way your clients are aware that this is a DocuSign document, and based on your amazing customer service, you're going to give them a heads up. Hey, you're going to receive an email from DocuSign. That's going to be all your forms that you need to review and sign. But I want to add the property address, Main Street Northeast, and then I'm also going to add exclusive seller listing agreement and purchase and sale, just so they have a heads up on what they're actually reviewing and signing. And I'll write a quick message. Hi, Tony and Pepper. Please review and sign at your earliest convenience. Thank you, Nick. So that's my little message. You can write in as much of a message as you want, but I always just like to include something so they know that it is legitimate and that is from me. So now that we've gone through, we've given our envelope a name, we've added our documents and our templates that we want to send for review and signature. I've added our contacts. I've put them in the correct signing order and given them the correct permissions. And now that I've added a message, I'm going to click Next up in the top right-hand corner. And this is going to take me to the envelope editor where I'll be able to double check all of the fields and signature fields are mapped correctly. So I'll click Next. All right, so now we are in the envelope editor. There's a lot of information here, so let's walk through the layout of the editor before we actually start double checking any of the forms. So starting in the top left-hand corner, you'll see this little go back arrow. If for whatever reason you notice that something is incorrect and you need to make a change to exit, click this go back button. DocuSign saves all of your changes every couple seconds, so there isn't going to be a save functionality. It's already happening. You can just click go back here. Here we have the name of our email right here. Please DocuSign 1234 Main Street. Below that, you'll see here it says Tony Stark with a yellow dot next to it. Notice how all of these fields in the standard field column are highlighted yellow. If I click on this drop-down menu, I see Pepper is blue and I'm purple. So I'm going to click on Pepper's name, and now all of these standard fields are highlighted blue. The benefit is that this allows you to more easily visually acknowledge who has signing permissions to which fields. So it just makes it a lot more simple. So I'm going to change it to my name. Now it's purple. So I know as I'm going through, anytime I see a purple field, that's going to be mapped to me as the listing agent. Up here at the top, we have a go back, an undo, or redo button. We also have a zoom, so if you want to zoom in or out to make it easier to read, you can. Over here in the right-hand column, these are all the documents in the order that they're in, and they are offering thumbnails. So I can quickly scroll through thumbnails of my documents, and then you'll notice right here on page 9, there are these 3 tabs in the top left-hand corner. That lets me know that there is a required field on this page, and that there's one for Tony, Pepper, and myself. Then I'll click on the seller's property disclosure, and then I'll see a yellow tab. That lets me know that there's a field assigned to Tony on this page. So this is how you can very easily click through all of the documents and see who has to sign where. So now that we've walked through the layout of the editor, let's go through and double check our documents. Let's make sure all the signature fields are correct. Let's make sure that we're not missing any information. And let's add the letters for the exhibits. So I'm going to scroll down. We'll see here we have all of our information. Our property address, this is our listing agreement. And it looks like I forgot to check this box here. It says attach as exhibit here too. Not a big deal. I'll just add a checkbox here. So what I'll do is I'll come right here to click on checkbox, and then I'll add the checkbox right there. And then I'm going to double click it. And now it's checked. I also want to go ahead and I'm going to click read only because I want that checkbox to show up when everybody reviews and signs the document. So I'm going to select read only. So that way no one will be able to change this field. Now I'm going to continue to scroll down. I don't need any of this information. Here we have our list price, listing agreement price, marketing, our commission, our brokerage information. We don't offer, does not consent to dual agency. So just keep scrolling. All right, and we're scrolling. Lots of double checking here, but we want to make sure it's thorough because the less errors that we have on the front end, the more confident our clients are going to be in us, that we know what we're doing. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know why this other one, see, this is one of these weird kinks with DocuSign. So I'm going to add another checkbox here and do our legal description, double click it, and then make read only. And there's nothing there, so I'll just leave that as is. Scroll down, our additional stipulations. All right, well, I didn't add that because we don't actually have any. Then I'll come down here. I see we have Tony's name and we have a signature field here for yellow. That's Tony. Then I have one for blue and that's Pepper. Good to go. Scroll down. We see here's all my information. There's a purple one. I'm just going to move that over just so it's to the left-hand side, and everything for my signature is good to go. Now, a benefit of me signing third is that I'm going to be the last person to sign. And with my listing agreement, I could go ahead and I can make this binding when I sign it. So it'll kind of save me an extra step on the back end of once everyone signs it, that I don't have to go in and make binding and then resend it to everybody. So to make this document binding, I'm going to add some text fields. So I'll come over here, I'll click text, drag it into the position that I want. And then I'm going to format this field to fit in there. One thing I really like about DocuSign is that I can right mouse click, hit copy, paste, and it's going to paste that same size field right here. So I can just drag that into the correct position. And now I'm going to add the date signed field right here so it'll automatically populate the date based on when I sign. So when I sign this, I'll be able to make this listing agreement binding. So then when I'm complete with it, DocuSign will automatically send these documents out to my client and they will have actual notice of our binding listing agreement. All right, so now I'm going to scroll down into our seller's property disclosure. There's no field here for the exhibit letter, which is fine because that doesn't get added till you go under contract. But then we'll scroll down here and you'll see all these text boxes are highlighted, are circled in yellow. Now, if you want to if you click on this text box, the menu will appear on the right-hand side, and you'll notice that neither read-only or required field is checked. What that means is that this field is not required and that the seller 1, does not have to fill in this information in order to sign and finish this document. However, we want our client to fill in all of the information on the seller's property disclosure. I will say 9 times out of 10, when I hear that this document isn't working or there's some error and the agent received a blank document, it's because the system, DocuSign, jumps from required field to required field to required field. So it jumps right over all these fields here for the seller's property disclosure, so they don't even know that they have to fill them in. Well, a fun little trick and workaround that you could do is select this first box right here. What year was the main residential dwelling constructed? And then you can click on the required field. And now you'll notice that text box is filled in yellow, and that lets you know that the system is going to stop on this field and your clients will be required to fill in the year of this box in order for them to be able to go on and fill in the next information. Now, I'm not going to go through and make every single one of these boxes required because I don't know which boxes are going to be relevant and which ones won't. But by making this box required, the system is going to stop right here. And it'll make it much easier for your client to then go down the list and click the boxes and fill in any additional information. So it's just a nice little trick that you can kind of prevent the system from jumping right over everything on this disclosure. So I'm going to scroll down, make sure everything is highlighted yellow to seller 1. Keep scrolling, everything looks good. All those items have checkboxes there, great. Then we have our signature lines, perfect, seller 1, seller 2, perfect. And now we'll scroll down. Now we have our community association disclosure. And this is going to be the same premise as the seller's property disclosure in that none of these fields here are required. So the system would just jump right over everything. Well, I'm going to do the same trick of making one of these fields required, but I don't know what type of association my clients have just yet. So I don't want to make any one of these text boxes required because I may make the wrong field required and I don't want to have unnecessary information in there or incorrect information. So I can come right here to the name of the association, click on that text box and make this required. And now it's filled in yellow, so I know that the system will stop here and the client must fill in information for the name of association field. Now, unlike the seller's property disclosure, this field is kind of towards the bottom of that first page. Unlike the seller's property disclosure, that's one of the first fields. However, again, the system will stop here, so it'll make it much easier for your client to then easily scroll up, select the correct type of association, and fill in any fees. It just makes it a lot easier for him or her to scroll up or down and fill in all of the information as needed. So I'm going to scroll down, continue to make sure everything is mapped correctly to seller 1, so everything is mapped yellow. All right, then here's our initial field, so we're good to go there. Scroll down, now we have our affiliated marketing disclosure. All right, now for whatever reason, the signature fields didn't load for this, which is fine. That's why we're double checking it. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to select Tony from the drop-down menu, and I'm going to click signature. I'm going to add a signature field here, and I'm going to add a date signed field here. Then I'll do the same thing for Pepper, select her name, add signature, and then date signed. And then we are good to go. So I'm going to scroll down, continue to double check. We have our wire fraud. And again, here the signature boxes move. I don't know why. Whenever the MC office makes this document, they put their signature fields in the right place. Something happens when they save it that it moves them down. So just move them up so it's on the signature line. And now I'm going to scroll down to my purchase and sale agreement. Again, we're going to double check everything. Make sure we're not missing anything. We didn't miss any check boxes. We want to make sure that this contract is enforceable. So here's my seller initials. Good to go there. scrolling. All right, here we have our exhibits. So we've checked all the boxes for these exhibits we want to include. Now we need to add the letters. So I'm going to select myself from the dropdown, and then I'm going to add a text box. So I'll come over here to Community Association, and I'll format that text box to fit right there. And I'm going to copy that, and then paste, and I'm going to drag this into the legal description. And then I'm going to paste again, and I'll drag this over here to seller's property disclosure. So I'm going to make my seller's property disclosure. I'm going to uncheck required, and I'm going to make it read only because I want it to appear when when all my clients sign this. So I'm going to come in here, double click into it, make that exhibit A. I'm going to make community association disclosure. I'm going to uncheck required, make this exhibit B, and I'll come to legal description, uncheck required, and make this exhibit C. So now we're good to go there. All those exhibits have letters. I'm going to scroll down here. Now we have our special stipulations. If you want to add a text box here to put more stipulations and make them smaller, you can. To do that, just add a text box and then drag the format to fit over here in the space. Then if you come down to on the right-hand side in the menu, you can click formatting and you can select 7-point font. And now you can type more steps, very small font, can fit more. And now you can see that that text box, all those tips now fit. They're small and harder to read, but they're there. I'm also going to uncheck required field, and I'm going to check read only because I want all those tips to be there when everyone reviews and signs. I'm going to scroll down, double check. Here we have our client's signatures. And remember, I mentioned earlier about protecting our clients' contact information. So here's their email address. When you want to hide your client's email address, come over here to the left-hand side and click on the icon that says markup tools. It looks like a pencil. And then I'm going to select line. And I'm going to come and I'm going to drag a line over my client's email address. It's going to make a red line, but we can change that color in the menu on the right-hand side. I'll make that black. And then thickness, I'm going to make it 10. And then I'm just going to drag that into position to hide my client's email address. Perfect. That's simple. Now I'm going to right mouse click copy and paste. And I'm going to drag this over my other client's email address. And now both of my clients' contact information is protected from that co-op agent. Is a black box on a purchase and sale agreement the most visually pleasing thing to see? No, but it serves its purpose of protecting my client. So I don't have to worry about a co-op agent unethically reaching out to my client. And I'll scroll down, double check, make sure that my signature and dates, everything is good to go. All right, so now all of our signature fields, all the text boxes, everything look like they're good to go. If you want to see what it's going to be like for your client to sign this before you actually send it to them, you can click on Recipient Preview. And this is going to show you a quick preview of what your clients will see. And up here at the top, it gives us the ability to look at a desktop view, a tablet view, or a phone view. So you can see what it will render like on each one of these different versions. The mobile version is really teeny tiny. So if you're in a multiple offer situation and time is of the essence and you have to get that offer over to that co-op agent as soon as possible because they're reviewing offers tonight at 7 p.m. and your clients have dinner reservations, you can send this to them at dinner and say, please review it on your phone and sign it on your phone. I don't care. We've already talked through all the information. Please just get it signed ASAP. And they can. They're not going to be able to read it, but they can sign it. So I'm going to click X here to exit out of my preview mode. And now when I'm ready to send for signature, I'm going to click send either in the top right-hand corner or bottom right-hand corner and click send. So now I'm just preparing for signature. And we can see here, it says that this envelope is waiting for others. So now we're going to go through the process of signing it. So I'm going to sign as Tony, Pepper, and myself through 3 different email addresses because I want you to see what it's going to be like for your clients. So let me just open up my email. So this is my work one. Let me open up, again, the wrong one. Here we go. So this is my work one, or my tech one. So this is going to be for signing as Tony. See, here's my name, Nicholas Core via DocuSign. Please DocuSign 1234 Main Street, exclusive of the listing agreement and purchase and sale agreement. I'm going to open it. Scroll down. Here's the private message that I wrote to just Tony to please review and fill in those disclosures. And then here's my message to both Tony and Pepper. To get started, Tony is going to click Review Documents. Click Agree to use electronic records and signatures. Continue. And click Start. It's going to jump to that first required field, which is going to be signature field. Click on it. The system is going to ask Tony to confirm his signature and initials, and he can select a style, draw one, or upload one. I'm going to click Adopt and Sign. And then it's going to jump me to that next required field, which here on the seller's property disclosure is going to be this year that this dwelling was constructed, which I believe is 2007. And now Tony can go in and fill in all of these fields. And it makes it much easier for Tony to just go through and he can just check all the boxes. And I'm not going to go through and check all of these, but I want to do some because I want to show you what it's going to look like when Pepper goes through and she is signing. Let me just kind of scroll down and I'm just going to randomly select a bunch of these. All right. Scroll down and then Tony can just click Sign. And again, now it's going to jump to the community association disclosure where it's going to ask for the name of the association. So it's going to be a lot easier for Tony to scroll his mouse up just a little bit and say, oh, okay, we have a mandatory homeowners association that is currently $1,000 a year and paid in 4 installments. And I can type in, it's going to be neighborhood HOA, here, name of person, HOA management company, telephone number, 123, email address. And then he can just scroll down, again, fill in this information. Assessments of no assessments, common elements, common area maintenance, pest control, pool, tennis courts, grounds maintenance. All right. There are no special assessments. So I'm not super familiar with this update, so I'm not going to fill anything. There's not any litigation. Not received any violations. Seller wants. So I'm just filling in this information. You can see it's super easy. Then click Sign, 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 Initial, Sign, and now Tony is done. So when Tony's finished signing, he has to click the Finish button either at the very bottom of the document here or up in the top right-hand corner. Click Finish. The system is going to ask Tony if he wants to create an account. Have your clients click no thanks, they don't need a DocuSign account. Now Tony gets the You're All Done screen. Please give your clients a heads up that they need to see the You're All Done screen because it is not until they receive this notice that the next person can then go to sign. So I'm going to exit out of DocuSign here, close that. And now I'm going to go into my personal email address or email for Pepper. Here's Pepper's email. And then here's, hi, Tony Pepper, please review at your earliest convenience. But remember, there isn't that private message that I sent just to Tony. So I'm going to click review documents. And it's going to go through the same process as what Tony did. So I'll click agree, continue, start, sign, confirm signature. Now it just scrolled all the way past all that information in the seller's property disclosure. So I'm going to scroll up because I want to show you that all of that information that Tony filled in is here for Pepper to review. So this is one of the benefits of having a specific signing order, because it gives Pepper the opportunity to double check and make sure that all the information that Tony put in here is correct. Now, this is a conversation you'd want to have with your clients up front and say who wants to be responsible for filling in the information and who wants to be responsible for reviewing and making sure that's correct. So everything looks good to go there. So Pepper can sign. And the same thing at the community association disclosure. I'm just going to scroll up so I can show you. Here's all the information that Tony put in. Pepper can initial and sign, initial, and sign. And I also want to point out, you can see the black boxes are there, so it protects my clients. Their contact information is nowhere on this document. So now Pepper has finished. So she now has the opportunity to click finish. Again, it's going to ask her if she wants to create an account. We'll click no. No, thank you. And now Pepper has the "you're all done" screen. So she is good to go. So now I'm going to click into my work email, and we can see here I get an email that says, please DocuSign. Lets me know that it's my turn. So I'm going to click review documents. And I'm going to click continue. And now I'm going to sign. So I'm going to click sign. And now remember, I added those required fields, so I can set this so this document will be binding as of 12 p.m. on 2/5. So fill in, sign. Now I'm finished. That's it. So I can click finish. I don't want to log in because I already have DocuSign open up on another page. But what I am going to do is I'm going to come over here to Tony's email. And I'm going to just reload this for a second, because our DocuSign is going to automatically send out all of the copies of those signed documents right here. So completed, please DocuSign, and it has copies of all the documents that they just reviewed and signed. It is our responsibility as agents that our clients have copies of all the documents that they have signed so they can have it for their records. This just takes that step off your plate, and it makes it super easy, so that way they always have copies in their inbox. Now, I would recommend as an agent that you still go through and you package everything up all nicely and say, hey, here's all your binding documents, whatever. But again, this is just another way that they receive notice. And every single person is going to receive this email. So I wanted to show you that. So now I'm going to go back into DocuSign. I'm going to refresh the page. And you'll see here, the envelope now shows as completed, so we're good to go. I want to find the signed document, so I'm going to go into the Documents tab, and then I'm going to scroll down to the Room Docs folder, because that's where everything will default into. And now I have all these documents with green check boxes in the bottom right-hand corner that say signed. And those are my signed PDFs. So I want to move those into the correct folder for my listing agreement. So I'm going to select all of the documents that go with my listing agreement. Do I mean to open it up? Select, and then I'm going to click move, destination folder and current room, and I'll select listing agreement and click move. Perfect. So now when I scroll down, I just have my purchase and sale agreement. And then I have this document here. It says certification. This is just going to show you a timestamp of when everyone reviewed and signed each document. So that way, if there's any question on the validity or that they did not sign it or they meant to, you can always check that here. I'm going to archive this because I don't necessarily need it. It's just going to take up space. So now that we have all of our documents, there's a couple things that we can do here in DocuSign first. And one thing that's going to be really important is being able to combine these documents. So I know when I like to send everything over to my clients, I like to send it as a one simple document that they can review so they don't have to open up numerous documents. So I want to select all my signed listing agreement documents. And now I'm going to combine them into a single document. So I'm going to roll my mouse over all these icons. And I'm going to click combine. Now I can give this a new document name. So I'm going to name this 1234 Main Street Northeast, if I could spell, finding listing agreement. And now I want to put them in a specific order, so I can just click on the document name and drag it into the order that I want. So we have our listing agreement, then seller's property disclosure, then community association, then affiliated marketing, and wire fraud, and click save. The page will reload, and this combined document will now be added into my Room Docs folder, and it's right there as a PDF. I'm just going to drag that into my listing agreement folder. And now I have this combined document, and I can open it up. And it's going to show me all 21 pages of this document. And I could email that. I could come over here. I can download it to then email to my clients. Let's say you're a listing agent and you receive an offer from the buyer's agent, and that agent combined everything into a single document. Well, we need to upload those things into compliance as separate individual documents. So if you open up a long combined document, you can come up here to the top right-hand corner and click on Document Actions, and then click Split. And this will give you the ability to split this document into separate docs. So I can come over here and give document 1 a name, and I'll name this Exclusive Seller Listing Agreement. And I'm going to select pages 1 through 9. It highlights it so I know which pages are there. And I can click Add Document and add a second one, and I can just do seller's property disclosure, and I can roll my mouse over to get a zoomed in version, and I'll do page 10 through 16. There we go. And you can do that for all the documents that you want. You don't have to use every single page in here if you don't want to. I'm just going to, for time's sake, I'm just going to do 2 and click Save. I'm going to scroll down, and now I have those 2 individual documents down here in my Room Docs folder. And I can move them into my listing agreement folder if I wanted to. Any questions on anything that we've done so far? Because our next step is going to go into Command and prepare these to upload for compliance review. All right.
I think I had a question.
Oh yeah, what's up?
So I saw when you broke it down, and you that would be if somebody was sending a buyer's agreement, right? I mean, an offer on a listing.
Yeah. So let's say you're the listing agent, and you've received an offer from a buyer's agent, and that buyer put the purchase and sale agreement, property disclosure, community association, lead-based paint, all those into one single PDF. You can then upload that single PDF into DocuSign and then split it up into individual purchase and sale agreement, individual seller's property disclosure, individual community association disclosure. So that way, when you send for signature, and then when you upload for compliance, they're all separate documents.
Okay.
So now that we have all of our signed documents in DocuSign, now we need to submit them to Lynn and Alita for compliance review. So I'm going to click back into into Command. All right, so we have our listing agreement folder and an under contract folder. So we'll get started with our listing agreement folder. And there's a couple ways that you can add documents. On the right-hand side, you can click Add a File. And then I'm going to select Source of Documents, DocuSign. And this is going to connect me to DocuSign. So I can come down here to my listing agreement folder, and I'm going to select exclusive seller listing agreement - signed. Now it's going to show every single document in the room, and here's the unsigned form version, but I want the signed PDF. So I'm going to select that, click assign, and it's going to automatically upload that document from DocuSign into Command. So you could go through one by one and add each one of these files, or you can come up here and click attach multiple files. I'm going to select DocuSign as my source. And then I'm just going to go through. So we have our community association disclosure. So I'll just scroll down and I will select community association disclosure signed, seller's property disclosure signed. We don't have lead-based paint, so we'll do Rawls Group, affiliated marketing. Where is, here we go, affiliated marketing signed, and then Rawls Group wire fraud signed. Click attach, and now it's going to upload all those documents right there. Once you have uploaded all of your documents, you can then click on this button here that says submit to MC, and that's going to submit those documents to Lynn and Alita for compliance review. If for whatever reason something happens, well, actually, let me come over here to the under contract folder. So let me just add my purchase and sale agreement really fast. So I'll do GAR purchase and sale agreement signed, assign. So I am the listing agent, and let's say we go under contract for this house, but then they terminate during due diligence. Well, I don't need to create an entire new opportunity or a new room in DocuSign. What I can do is I can click right here in the under contract folder, and it gives me the ability to add a version. So I can click add version 2, click create new version, and now it's going to give me a whole blank slate of documents that I can now upload. So that way I can keep all the history of that terminated contract if there's ever any questions about it, but I'm still able to come over here and upload my fresh new contract and submit that to Lynn and Alita for compliance review. That is our DocuSign training this morning. I know we walked through a lot of information. What questions do you have? What can I show you again? What can I clarify for you?
So I know you mentioned earlier asking about opportunities. So yeah, I had a question about just about it in general.
Okay. What's your question about opportunities?
So I'm new, so I was just add an opportunity because I was following along with you at the beginning, and I went to the page, but mine is blank.
Yeah.
So that basically that you don't have to go into detail about the whole process, but what is it, and does everything that you have in there for the different documents to send, does that automatically pop up or?
So, okay, so a couple questions there. So the first question is, what is an opportunity? And at its really core basic functionality, an opportunity in Command is a client management portal or platform that you can manage that relationship from introduction all the way to closing. And it also helps you manage all of the documents. So that way you can just keep track of everything and okay, we just went under contract. I'm responsible for XYZ activities or documents. In terms of the documents, there are no documents in Command. All of the documents are going to be in DocuSign. So whenever you need to prepare a listing agreement or buyer brokerage or purchase and sale, all that's going to be done in DocuSign, and then you upload it into Command for compliance review.
So yeah, so well, not necessarily the documents. Then how you upload each one into the set title. So
yeah,
those titles automatically are in there for you to know.
Yes, that is. Yeah. So this whole list of documents right here is automatically going to be there. So you can see which documents are going to be required, conditionally required, or optional.
Okay, that's pretty much everything right there.
Yeah. So that way, that's kind of your blueprint of the documents that you'll need for each transaction. Any other questions?
Yeah, Nick, can I ask you a question on the commercial?
Yeah.
Where we don't do DocuSign. I mean, everything's a manual sign, manual scan. Would I even, if I'm not if we don't do DocuSign and I do just say leases,
Yep.
would I even go into DocuSign?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I want to go. I want to set up time, just 10 minutes to show you what I've done on an opportunity for a lease that I've closed.
Okay.
And I have to create my own invoice, for them to pay me. But I want to go through the opportunity, look at it, make sure I've got it right, to be able to send it to compliance.
Okay. Yeah.
Can I
so
just call you next week and we set up?
Well, you don't even have to do that. In my email signature, so in the signature of the email with the link for this class this morning, there's a Calendly link, and you can click on that and you can schedule time on my calendar for whatever works best for you, and we can set up a Zoom meeting or an in-person meeting. So
Okay, cool. Okay. All right, well, thank you. This was good. This helped.
Yeah. So as you guys are working in Command, DocuSign, let me know what questions you have. Always feel free to call me, send me a text. It's on the weekends, I'm going to be much easier to get on the phone because I do try to stay off the computer since I'm on it all day during the week. So just give me a call or text and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
Have a good one.
You too.